Human rights activist Omoyele Sowore has announced a nationwide peaceful march on October 20th, demanding the unconditional release of detained IPOB leader Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. What the lone call is now gaining attention, with the Ndigbo World Union and the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, pledging full support.
This isn't just a protest, it's a test of Nigeria's democratic resilience, civic engagement, and the boundaries of dissent. Join us this morning on Breakfast Central to discuss and unpack all of this is the Executive Director of Lead Network Africa, Mr. Chukwuma Okenwa. A warm welcome to you and thanks for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central.
You're welcome.
Now let's get straight to it. Is Mr. Omoyele Sowore's march a legitimate exercise of democratic rights or politically charged motivation?
It is legitimate and called for. As a matter of fact, I would describe it as timely. And what makes it timely is the very fact that government institutions, the judiciary, for whom the case is before, which before now, like looking at how long this matter has lasted, would have expected like a decisive position from the judiciary, because justice delayed is as good as justice denied. How can it be like a case of, consistent adjournment and re-adjournment of a particular matter of such importance, that hold great significance with the unity of the country, great significance with, a kind of addressing some feelings of marginalization from some quarters. So this is something that is timely, would have even expected the past administration to have handled. And the current Tinubu-led administration would have really latched on this as an opportunity to do something differently and indeed to demonstrate renewed hope. Sadly, it's over 2 years and it seems like there's nothing decisive. And so when you let government institutions to do the needful and they don't, then protests become a way to remind government of their responsibility, because there shouldn't have actually been the need for a protest to remind the judiciary to do the needful.
Let's then talk about, you have said that it's a long overdue protest and that you had expected that the renewed hope agenda would demonstrate some good faith in this regard. What has the growing support from the World Union and NANS signal about youth and ethnic mobilization in Nigeria? And do you think that this would garner influence and we will be able to mount pressure on the government?
Yeah, certainly. I think what Sowore has done as a strategist is to gauge the conscience of Ndigbo. Because let's not forget that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is not in the news and in detention because he wants to be the president of Nigeria or because he wants to take over power through illegal means. He's saying the way that our region is being treated, the Southeast, is not fair enough. And when you look at, some of the concerns empirically, whether it's like some forms of suppression, marginalizations, this is real, for a region that, has been adversely impacted in time past, by the Civil War. And now, what would have been expected, it's to find a way to ensure that, the one Nigerian project that every Nigerian truly matter. It shouldn't be clear, maybe even when it comes to government institutions. Even sometimes it's, you could see like some of those challenges in the police force, immigrations, customs. Igbos, they complain. I am speaking empirically. It's not an assumption. Interestingly, also having widely traveled and sometimes try to relate with our higher commissions beyond the shores of the country. You also see like Igbos serving in Nigeria high commissions, embassies, facing the same thing even in foreign land. So what stops the fact that if someone is part of a project, part of a family, and is complaining of a certain thing, what you should do is not to suppress, the people, because Mazi Nnamdi Kanu represents the generality of the reality of the Southeast. It's not a one-man show. And so handling such matters of great importance and significance to national unity with the recklessness that the federal government and successive administrations has demonstrated in handling this is least expected and an insult on the entire Southeast region. It means that to some of these leaders, we do not matter.
I want to talk about this Southeast region. I want to make reference to one of what the Southeast leaders has said, specifically Governor Peter Mbah of Enugu State, who has not affected to the APC. In a statewide broadcast, he said that the situation with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will be solved politically. So let's get your thoughts, first of all. What do you, first of all, agree with that statement? And if you do, what sort of political solutions would that imply?
Yeah, why I think that recommendation is also appropriate is that if you look at the way the case has been handled, you would agree with me it's no longer a judicial process. It's no longer a judicial issue, which have even led to the judge in charge of the case at some point recusing herself from that particular matter. It shows you that it's more of political now than even a judicial process. And if a problem is properly diagnosed as political, then of course a political solution becomes the way. Otherwise, what you now have is trying to use a judicial process to perpetrate, what actually is a political kind of a challenge. So I think that is an appropriate diagnosis. And so when you talk about what political solution that would be expected, it would be for Mr. President. I mean, he's got all of the powers. You have the Attorney General, right? He could decide to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, but of course, on certain conditions, they should be able to look at, okay, what are some of the concerns of this young man? Strike a deal. If Israel and Gaza can strike a deal, why can't Nigeria strike a deal, right? I mean, even when it comes to intra-affairs, affairs that involve, some Nigerians with some Nigerians. And I think that is what is reasonably expected, that dialogue, negotiation would be the way to go about this, and not intimidation, suppression, detention, and continued adjournment and re-adjournment of this particular case. It is unfair, it is inhuman, and I think the government can do better.
All right. Mr. Okenwa, the leader of the Biafra Actualization Movement, by name Chief Ralph Uwazurike, has opted to actually testify in favor of the detained leader, known as Nnamdi Kanu. What do you think this will do to the case? And do you think this would in any way speed up his release or allow him to actually stand in for Nnamdi Kanu? In other words, also help him to get released on time. Do you think this has any implication?
Well, it all really depends on, it is said that he that holds or heed the piper, right? Or he that pays the piper determines the sound of the tune. And the people who pay in this particular case, both political actors and, of course, the piper now, is the judiciary. And what that means is that, I mean, if you testify, there is still a judge who is either going to strike out your witness as lacking in merit or going to sustain that. Whatever be the case, we see a judiciary that, is visibly compromised, because delaying this matter over and over again, it is no more justice. I mean, I see no reason why a matter like this should be a trivial issue that every time, that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu want to go to court, we're expecting what is going to be anything different, and it's going to be the same story. And every time he has to come to court, heavy security, and I mean, all of the drama Mr. President should put an end to all this drama.
Now let's come back to this planned protest by Omoyele Sowore on October the 20th. The Nigerian police force has said, there's the case in court already, and that going ahead to protest will be prejudiced and also undermine the Nigerian judiciary. What's your take on this? Is this the best approach? And is this protest really necessary?
It is very necessary, because don't forget that when you talk about government, legitimacy of every government lies with the citizens and with the people. The judiciary, the executive, legislature is meant to serve the people's interest and protect the interest of the citizens. So when we see any arm of the government that is not functioning, and we rise to protest and say, you know what, we are demanding for justice. Demanding for justice, I don't think it's in any way a subjudice of any sort. Rather, it's promoting justice, because the judiciary wouldn't have even needed for years for maybe a Sowore to come up and maybe some Igbo leaders coming up to now go in this particular regard. I mean, what even really stops them between now and that 20th? You know, from calling a spade and rather like a famine implement. If you want to say that this guy is guilty and you are imprisoning him, if you think that that is the best decision, then let us know. If you also think that he is deserving of his freedom, that the things that he negotiated and agitated for, howbeit maybe like some of us in the Saudis, we do not agree with the approach that maybe Mazi Nnamdi Kanu perhaps he would have done better. But of course, when someone is agitating, what you should look at is the merits of his agitations, not necessarily the approach, because there wouldn't have been an approach, first of all, if there are no substance for agitations. So look at it first of all, before you now say, oh, you would have done this better and all the rest of it. That's how to go about things. And perhaps also some of the approach, approach becomes flexible, because sometimes you try to negotiate, speak about some of these issues, which Ndigbo has been speaking since, since the start of war, say, let's apply the three, let's reconstruct, let's reconcile, let's have like a table that is big to ensure that every Nigerian count, irrespective of, like, look at the disgraceful work that Nick Don Chairman is doing. When an Igbo person, right, it's involved in a crime, and that's right, the person is called out by the region. And of course, you see all Igbo saying this is bad. But when it's a Yoruba, there is a special criminal, right? You begin to see to err is human and to forgive is divine. That is irresponsible and not expected of a leader occupying such a very sensitive position. When you are putting it to the face of the Saudis that we don't matter, we're almost like tenants, we are not co-equal stakeholders in the Nigerian project, then it's ridiculous. We find that ridiculous,
While the National Association of Nigerian Students is pledging support, as well as Ndigbo, to this protest by Omoyele Sowore, the Northern Nigeria Youth Leaders Forum has condemned the alleged plans for this protest. Not only did they condemn it, they have said that the court should be allowed to decide on Nnamdi Kanu's fate. That so far he's innocent until proven guilty, but that the court should be allowed to do its job. They then go ahead to say they will then stage a solidarity protest from October 21st. I don't want to quote the date wrong. All right. Yeah, that they will stage a celebratory protest from October 21st to 23rd in support of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, citing progress reports like the student loans and the like. And then they go ahead to say that bodies like Man O' War, Boys Brigade, Peace Corps, and civilian JTF will participate in the march, whilst in the same breath emphasizing the need for unity across religious and ethnic divides. Let's have your reaction to that.
Honestly, for those that, this is one very sad trend that is almost becoming norm. And I think, I doubt if we've ever seen that before, like except in this administration, like the last End Hunger protest, where we also have like counter-protesters. I even cite an instance that if you have right to protest, then we have right to counter-protest. The Constitution doesn't provide for counter-protest when you want to now use maybe government might, right? Some forms of support to quell the efforts of citizens who are trying to register their grievance. It's nothing but political, and it's a bit of shameful, because if you look at the Nigerian society, compared to some other nations where Nigerians want to jabber to, because if our Nigerian leaders, if they all claim they love Nigeria and Nigeria is working well, very simple, empirically, bring back your children here, ensure all your medical files is here. We don't want to hear of a president going to France for treatment, or to UK, or the children resident there and there, or a senator celebrating with the children that just graduated from UK universities. Wills is their right, but show your patriotism, right? Bring your people, to even tell Trump that he can send his own children to Nigeria to come and school. Nothing stops us from being a sovereign nation that people can also be proud of, sending their kids to come and school here, or even coming here for medical treatment. It's not just something that maybe we just, just only say that Nigeria is this and all of that. Show it practically, show it through your body language. So for those people planning for counter-protest, funny enough, when you look at many of them and what they will be paid at the end of the day, maybe 1,000, 10,000 just to protest and to keep suffering, it really becomes like a very sad one. Sometimes I really begin to wonder, why is it those that suffer the most in Nigeria that are actually being used, right? By political actors for shameful assignments, whilst their children and UK and US enjoying, the wealth of the family. Maybe.
Mr. Okenwa, I mean, earlier on you had highlighted that NIDCOM was biased in its speech when it comes to the Igbos. Well, I'm aware, and I'm sure that you are also aware that NIDCOM has debunked that statement, stating clearly in a press release that the CEO is not one to do such, and NIDCOM does not stand for that. They do not support a particular tribe and neglect another tribe, even though many have alluded to the tweet and the messages that they found on X. But just to clarify that, because NIDCOM had put out a press release.
Okay, let me say something. I mean, when a chairman can make such careless statements, because what they are just trying to do to me is just cosmetics, a makeup, right? Because just like the president of a nation speaking, maybe at the United Nations or the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and then it comes and says chairman, right? The chairman is the chairman, and the chairman has the right to speak on behalf of the board, right? Anything you say, you must be very conscious of that particular fact that anything you say represents the image of the particular organization that you represent.
Okay, all right. With that aside, I think we've been able to clear that part. You have your opinion, but then again, NIDCOM has also made a clear statement that that's not exactly what they plan. But let's go into this protest. Sowore is taking it by the bull's horn to ensure that he carries out this protest. What do you envisage will happen? Do you think the protest will have any impact on what will happen in the next few months? And looking at the governor's move, the Enugu State governor, also speaking about it being politically solved, do you think other governors will be willing to join their voices to ask for the release of Nnamdi Kanu? Or do you think it's just a loner? He's just a loner in his quest to ensure that he gets released?
Well, I think as far whether the protest is really going to make an impact, I think it will. My only concern is on the safety of the protesters. Considering the ways and mannerism government has, deployed that monopoly of violence, which is constitutionally provided, even though in Nigeria there is no monopoly of violence, because you also have non-state actors that can show government some level of might, and all government can do is to bring them to the table of dialogue and negotiation. Government's ready to negotiate with criminals, but ready to criminalize people who are legitimately expressing their rights as citizens. That is uncalled for. Having said that, I think, at least we're beginning to see government actors remember that once more, there is a court that should be allowed to decide on the case. So I'm really excited about, the prominence that the case is taking. At least we're having this conversation as seriously as we should, and not just like the usual way that every Nigerian is accustomed to: go to court, return to detention, repeat the process, try it 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. And then as regards to like Governor Peter Mbah's call and the likelihood of other governors joining in that call, it's unlikely, because for many other governors, they just want to be politically correct, right? All
right.
They don't want to say anything that maybe may affect their political future, right? For whatever reason. But I can tell you, releasing Mazi Nnamdi Kanu represent the generality of the concerns and wish of those from the Southeast region. All
right. Thank you very much for joining us. We're counting down the days. It's 5 days to October 20th, and let's see what happens before then, during the protest if it holds, and after then. But thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right.